if they want to. Talk, don't.
And welcome to Let Them Talk. I'm Paul DiRienzo, and my guest is Raymond Lotta, who's a writer for Revolution newspaper and has quite a long resume of work in radical politics and in trying to change the world to be a better place. I've been following your work for many years, and you're a great writer, and you're, as an economist, sure. I mean, I read your book back in the 80s, and I was impressed. The Decline of America, you were right on the button. It maybe took a few years longer than we expected, but you were pretty much got the whole thing down.
Well, thanks for having me on the show, Paul, and I'm very excited to be here to talk about the topic, at hand, which is this Basics Bus Tour.
Right, the Basics Bus Tour, and we're going to see a video in a few minutes about that. And what is it, you're involved, your Revolution newspaper is the organ of the Revolutionary Communist Party, right? A communist organization in America, a Maoist organization philosophically. I'll let you describe more in detail what that all means. And correct me if I get it wrong, because I always do. And what can you tell us about this Basics Tour that's so important?
Okay, well,
and who's that guy? Let's start with that. Who's that guy?
Well, this is Bob Avakian.
Who is Bob Avakian? That's a good place to start.
This is Bob Avakian. He is chairman of the Revolutionary Communist Party, and he is the outstanding communist theorist and communist leader in the world today. Bob Avakian, has re-envisioned communism. He has brought forward a communism for the 21st century. He summed up the experiences of the first wave of socialist revolutions in the Soviet Union from 1917 to 1956, and in China from 1949 to 1976. He summed up the lessons of those revolutions, their great achievements, their shortcomings, their problems, and he has also drawn from other spheres of human experience and endeavor, and he has brought forward what is called a new synthesis of communism.
Well, does that make Bob Avakian like a Malcolm X type figure? I mean, what is that in reality? What does that mean to us? Why is he like Mitt Romney on steroids? I mean, what's going on? Is he Obama? I should say, is he like Obama on steroids?
No. These are all you've named capitalist politicians, people that are guardians and
not
defenders.
Malcolm X.
No. You said Malcolm. You said Mitt Romney and
right. But I also said Malcolm X.
Right. No, but first you're talking about capitalist politicians, and then you're talking about Malcolm X, who was a great revolutionary leader of the 1960s, right? And Avakian also came out of that whole era, and that was the closest we've come to a revolutionary situation in the U.S.
in the 1960s.
In the 1960s, early 70s. But Avakian, kept at revolution.
How about the 1930s?
Well, let's just stay here because we have a lot to talk about.
Right.
But Avakian has, came out of that era of the 60s. This was a time when revolution was in the air, and China was a beacon of revolution. The Cultural Revolution was taking place there. The revolutionary movement emerged in this society. And Avakian, played a very central role in what happened in the 60s. And out of that came the Revolutionary Communist Party. And what I said earlier is that, Avakian has since then applied himself to the vexing problems of how to make revolution in today's world.
You might be interested to know I have seen Bob Avakian give a speech twice. The second time was good, but the first time I saw him give a speech, it was one of the most amazing speeches I've heard in my life. And I'll tell you, capitalist politicians, Bill Clinton could give a 3-hour speech. That was actually quite riveting. But Bob Avakian really gives a good speech.
Part of this Basics Bus Tour, let's get to the Basics Bus Tour, because Avakian is this, outstanding communist leader. He is taking responsibility for making revolution in this society.
No bars for revolution.
He's leading the process of revolution.
I agree with you. He has no holds barred for a revolution.
And what we're doing with this Basics Bus Tour is essentially bringing to people the liberating vision and the works of Bob Avakian. Now, it's called the Basics Bus Tour because
here it is, right?
Here's the book. Basics. This is a handbook.
And Bob Avakian's a writer. He's written as well. I mean, I wish I could have him here. I love you having him here. I wish I had both of you guys here.
We're gonna, we have Avakian's video,
right?
About what revolution, why it is necessary.
Yeah, go ahead.
Why it is necessary, why it is possible, and what it is about. This is a DVD of a major speech by Avakian in which he breaks down the essentials of why we're in the situation we're in, the nature of this society, the world, and what communism means, and how we can get to a communist world. Now, on this tour, let me just sort of hit
Well,
it
I want to
straight.
give you an opportunity to give out the
Yeah.
information at some point, like early on.
Yeah.
Let's start out early and tell people when and where they can find out about this.
Well, look, here's
segue into that.
First of all, let me just say that there is a website, Basics Bus Tour, okay? basicsbustour.tumblr.com, okay?
Right.
basicsbustour.tumblr.com.
Basics Bus Tour, one word.
Right. .tumblr, .com. There you go. Now let's
Good,
talk
cool.
about the Basics Tour.
Okay.
We are doing 3 things with this tour. Okay. One, as I said, we're bringing Avakian's work and vision, to people, and especially popularizing this book and getting it into people's hands. We're letting people know about the revolution.
The revolution.
The
I love that. A lot
revolution.
of, a
We're
lot,
letting
you have to
people-
admit,
yeah, we're
a
letting
lot of
peop-
people, their toes curl when they hear that, the revolution.
Yeah.
What does
About
that
the
mean?
revolution that needs to be made and that can be made. And
Absolutely.
the third thing we're doing is we're giving people ways and means to become part of, to contribute to this movement for revolution. That is, we are building a movement for revolution. Now, this bus tour is a very exciting way in which we are doing these 3 things. And what's happened is that it started early in the spring in California. That was the first leg. The second leg of the tour went from Atlanta to Florida. It went from Atlanta to Sanford, Florida.
What's the significance of Sanford, Florida for folks
Sanford,
who
Florida, for people that don't know, was the site of the brutal murder of Trayvon Martin by George Zimmerman. This was that brutal murder of a young man in a,
by Zimmerman, right?
by
We all
Zimmerman.
know that story.
We know the case.
Now,
Now-
living on a mountaintop, you didn't
And
hear
then
this?
the Basics bus tour went right into the most down-pressed communities in that area. And it took this message of revolution and communism, it took Basics, this book, and got it out widely. And we're going to see some documentation
Yes, yeah.
about the impact
well,
that
we
this
should
tour
in
had.
about a minute.
So we'll do that. So what I want to say, and now what we're doing is we're launching the next leg of the tour right here in New York City,
Great.
smack in the middle of New York City. And the plans for this are to go into the communities, the most oppressed and impoverished communities.
Hunts
we're
Point.
taking this bus tour. Well, where the bus tour is going is
Morrisania.
Brownsville. It's going to be in the Bronx.
Okay.
And if you go to that Basics bus tour,
Sure.
that basicsbustour.tumblr.com site, you can follow the itinerary of it. And what we're doing with this tour is drawing many people into supporting it, getting involved in it. We're asking for donations. We're asking for people to contribute in all kinds of ways. I want to get back to that.
Raymond Lotta, are people actually riding in buses? Is that a misnomer tour, like a Obama bus tour, or is it like a bunch of people on this radical 60s era style, crazy radical bus tour across America with their revolutionary messages?
Well, here's
I hope it is.
It is. For the next 2 weeks, the tour
All right.
story.
Yeah,
There
in
are
this country.
2
So bad.
RVs. There are 2 RVs.
Right.
They're brightly decorated with
Right.
slogans.
Sure.
The two of the main slogans that we're popularizing from this book, Basics by
Sure.
Avakian, is 2 of these slogans are American lives are not more important than other people's lives. And
I like that. Americans' lives are not more important than other people's lives. Chief, let me
there you
agree
go.
with you. It's
And
about
the second
time. Who
slogan,
said that?
That's Avakian.
He said that?
This
I'm
is
glad
from
he did.
Basics.
I'm really
and then
glad he wrote that.
And then the other slogan
Damn.
that we're really highlighting here is internationalism. The whole world comes first. And these 2 slogans speak to the reality
Like
of the
6% of the population using 60% of the resources, type of stuff,
Yeah, and also the fact that the U.S. is waging these wars for empire, killing people, all the death and destruction that results from
Now,
this.
this is not just some way so we can just also get us to support Coney or something like that, right? Yeah,
No, but this
some
is
third
about-
world dictator
No,
who's
this is
supposed
about
to be better than
What
America.
Avakian has done is he has brought forward a vision and strategy for moving society to a whole other place, racial antagonism and world revolution, and we have to get...
Let's hear from my need to be dramatic, and I love
Let's
a
go.
revolutionary. All right, so Raymond Lotta, we're going to hear it now.
This is the tour in the South.
No more generations of our youth here and around the world whose life is over, whose fate has been sealed, who have been condemned to an early death or a life of misery and brutality, whom the system has destined for oppression and oblivion even before they are born. I say no more of that.
Leader of the revolution,
Get down with Bob Avakian.
Leader of the revolution, you can't change the world. You don't know the basics.
you can't change the world.
You don't know the basics.
Why did the police test Trayvon's body for drugs, but not George Zimmerman? Why did the police not search George Zimmerman's car? Why did they not arrest him? This is the time to stand up. This time it can't be swept under the rug. This has got to be the beginning of something even greater in terms of people's struggles and people's defiance and going forward to win a whole different future.
So we're here to get people organized, and we're here to put the system on notice that we're saying no more. And
Sam would care more about a dog than they do a black person.
yeah,
They really do.
that's
Sam
true.
they'd rather for a black person get killed than for you to kill a dog. You go to jail fast to kill a dog than you would kill a black person, Sam.
I came out today because of my son. I went to court with him yesterday, and they wrongly convicted him because they say he lied, and they had false evidence, not enough evidence to convict him, and they convicted him anyways.
That message here on this banner is a quote from Bob Avakian from his book, Basic. This quote is right on time for this situation. And here is the place to bring it to bring it to the people who not only were at ground zero of the crime of the vigilante murder of Trayvon Martin, but who also were in the forefront of standing up and refusing to accept this crime in silence, saying, "Not this time." Now let's look at this quote. No more generations of our youth here and all around the world. We have seen generations of youth ground up by this system. We could go all the way back to the first Africans dragged to these shores in slavery chains, to the native inhabitants whose land was stolen and genocide committed against them.
It's a lot of folks that ain't even people what's going on out here about police, not even police, about the environment, the society, how everybody hurting, and you got to do whatever you got to do to survive. So it's really keep doing what y'all doing, and one day everybody will come together.
We're bringing this message on this banner that's been signed by hundreds of people throughout the South, and similar banners that were signed by hundreds of people from Chicago, from Houston, from Hawaii, from Los Angeles, from Cleveland, and many other places. We're bringing this banner, and this bus tour has been spreading the voice and the works of Bob Avakian, the leader of the Revolutionary Communist Party, a man whose work opens the door to making real this declaration of no more generations of our youth round up by this system, and the only way that's really possible, by getting rid of this system through revolution. Because Bob Avakian has spent decades digging into the experience of previous revolutionary societies, looking at what they did right and highlighting that, but also looking at the errors and shortcomings, figuring out how to break through on those so that we can go farther and do better the next time that power's in the hands of the people.
Like the whole book, it's like it's thoughts that I never would have had before if I hadn't read the book. Like how this country exploits other countries, and that how the capitalists in our countries actually make people's lives in other countries far worse.
When I seen y'all marching, I was like, there should be more people here. You know, I was like, wow. And then I seen other people stopping, and it makes us feel good to know that people really care about what is going on here, and that you're on our side, reaching out for justice as well. So I had started reading his book, and I just could not put his book down because he was explaining a whole lot about what is going on in America that a lot of us don't even know, and everything that's in his book makes sense. Other people are afraid to speak because it'll put their life on the line, and this man put his life on the line for everybody to know the truth, and he just told it just how it is. How can we make that change if we don't know the basics? How can we make that change if we really don't know what's going on?
We need
to have BA's works, his vision, and his revolutionary leadership known everywhere, all over this country. We need to have discussions like this. It needs to penetrate into all the schools. It needs to penetrate in the universities. It needs to go down to the base of society where people are still yearning for the freedom that I talked about. But even more than that, not more than that, but in addition to that, in addition to BA being everywhere, imagine how that can change the society that we live in and open up possibilities. Open up a pathway for change. And this time, for fundamental change to emancipate all humanity.
A lot of times you're in the middle of history, you don't appreciate the significance of it. Because you're just doing your life and you're doing what you have to do. And this is a historic moment and it's a historic opportunity. And there is a means and there is a need for you to play a role in this. There's a way for everybody to contribute something. Everybody knows how to do something. Everybody knows how to reach somebody. All of this has been reached and accomplished thus far because of the support of hundreds of people who've given thousands of dollars to pay for the RV, to pay for the volunteers to get here, to pay for the palm cards, to support the work that we're doing. And you have already only just a glimpse of the deep connection that we have had. The seething outrage of millions and millions of people that we've begun to tap into, particularly black people, but not only. And we are delivering a message. We're taking this out, this revolution, our revolutionary leadership, and we need to go further. So I want to ask you, if you've been inspired by what you've seen, if you want to see more of it, please make a donation. Give $100, give $10, give $500. Help support this tour as we go on the road and start raising the money right now for the next leg of this tour, because we are determined to project BA everywhere, across this country, among everybody who is sick at heart, everybody who is fed up, everybody who's ever dreamed of a better world. We need to reach them. If you are one of those people, you can be part of this. It's an incredibly meaningful contribution you can make. Give money to the Basics Bus Tour. Call your friends, send them some of these videos, show them the blog, basicsbustour.tumblr.com. Get them on board the bus with us, because we are out to change the face of everything. This world is a horror. It doesn't have to be this way. We have the leadership, we have the vision, and we have a determined core and a movement around the country that's growing to put an end to this, to bring into being something much better, and you can be part of that. Please give money today.
The next leg of this tour will kick off in New York and roll through surrounding areas in mid-July. This time out, there will be 2 RVs with twice as many volunteers and reaching many, many more people. Be part of something transformative, something that can radically change what people think is tolerable and what they think is possible. Be part of changing the world by contributing towards the $50,000 needed for the Basics Bus Tour.
But you know what? If we can't get justice by our system, then what can we get justice for?
Be part of this wherever you are. Follow the Basics Bus Tour and donate at basicsbustour.tumblr.com.
And we have to build the kind of strength, the kind of organization, the kind of understanding, and the kind of movement that can go forward from here to make good on this statement. No more generations of our youth here and around the world whose life is over.
This won't happen without you.
Welcome back to Let Them Talk. I'm Paul DiRienzo, and my guest is Raymond Lotta, a writer for Revolution newspaper, who's here to let me just fix myself here. Who's here to really discuss what we were just watching in the video, which is the Basics Bus Tour, which is here in New York City. We talked about Bob Avakian of the Revolutionary Communist Party earlier, and we're going to return to that now. So you had some things you wanted to say.
Yeah, well, I just wanted to say, I think that the video that people just watched, gives people a real good sense of the power and the impact of this tour, and the way in which, Bob Avakian's words and Bob Avakian's writings and the vision that he's bringing forward connects with the most oppressed people in society and all the potential, that exists out there, and that's what we're tapping with this tour. Now, as I said, it started yesterday. There are 2 RVs. They are brightly decorated. They have these slogans on them. And the volunteers who make up the tour, right, are people of different ages, of different nationalities, from different parts of the country, with different experiences, and this is all part of the, of the power and the energy of this tour. And what they're going to be doing is going into these neighborhoods, both places like Brownsville, where you have this is ground zero for stop and frisk into the Bronx, but they're also going to be mixing it up in the communities and places where artists and students are. Correct. And this is the kind of impact that we're going to be having. And let me just explain what the tour is going to be doing is getting out this book, getting out these palm cards, so that people, and as I said, these two slogans, American lives are not more important than other people's lives, and internationalism, the whole world comes first. These palm cards are going to be mass distributed. People can take them. They can get them into laundromats, into restaurants. They're going to be showing Bob Avakian's DVD on Revolution. They're going to be showing it in homes. They're going to be having great debates and discussions with people on the streets, in the in the community centers. And here I just want to emphasize, Paul, that as the video emphasizes, we need support, we need financial donations. People can contribute to this in all kinds of ways, because this tour is speaking to a crying need, which is the fact that Avakian, Bob Avakian, has brought forward this vision and this way out of this madness, of this horrible world that we live in, but it is not widely known. His vision and his leadership are not widely known. This is a big gap that we are trying to close. The fact is that there is this way forward, but people need to know about it, they need to grapple with it, and anyone...
What is the way forward?
Well, the way forward is to build this movement for revolution.
Okay, what is a movement? What is a movement?
A movement for revolution is what we're talking about, is people taking up, revolutionary ideas. People studying.
Not fighting in the street.
Yeah, look, revolution means, let me just explain very clearly, that when we're talking about revolution, that means confronting and defeating the power of this ruling class. And that can only be done in a revolutionary crisis, in a revolutionary situation.
Define a revolutionary situation.
A revolutionary situation is when the ruling class is racked with incredible turmoil and discord within the ranks
that
of the
exists
ruling
today?
class. No, it doesn't exist on that level. But the seeds of that, a revolutionary situation means that there is a revolutionary people, millions, tens of millions of people who have said enough and who want to put their lives in line for a whole different way.
Shouldn't Americans be focusing on making their government better? Why should they be ripping it down? Why tearing it down at this when it's weak? Why do you tear it down when it's weak?
You need leadership, and that to make a revolution you need leadership, you need visionary leadership, and this is what Avakian is
how's that different embodies. How's that different from terrorism?
No, this is a mass. We're talking about right now. We are not in a revolutionary situation. We are in a situation in which there's great suffering among large sections of the people, in which there's growing alienation on the parts of middle class people, and in which the U.S. is carrying out these crimes around the world, in which the ecosystems of the planet are endangered, perhaps irreversibly. This is the world that we live in. What we're saying.
So that terror is already coming from them.
But what we're doing, what we're talking about we're building a movement for revolution today. We're building this movement that draws people forward, that people will be taking up revolutionary ideas, will be fighting the injustices, key battlefronts like the police, the police brutality, the stop and frisk, the mass incarceration, the attacks on women, this war on women, the what's going on with the right to abortion, the horrors with pornography, the degradation of women, the wars. People need to be building resistance to these outrages, but what we are doing is bringing forward a vision of another way the world can be. And we are building this movement for revolution in which people are...
But how about those people like the Black Bloc who say, oh, you guys call yourself revolutionaries. How come you're not doing anything revolutionary?
Building this movement for revolution is revolutionary. Raising the consciousness, developing the organization of people, bringing people into organized connection to this
and what have you found out there?
And let me just say, this bus tour,
that's what I want to talk about.
This bus tour is very critical in changing this ideological equation in society that I'm talking about. The fact that you do have this deep, visionary understanding of the way the world could be different, and you have Avakian who's brought forward a strategy. Many of the questions that you're raising about, What about a revolutionary situation? What's the relationship between building movements and
which I know
struggles
we
today?
cannot answer today.
But I'm saying Avakian has answered these questions. There is a strategy for revolution. People can go to revcom.us and they can study the strategy. But this tour, let me just say,
go ahead.
This tour, because we have limited
No,
time.
go.
This tour.
I have one question about
this tour.
Yeah.
You know, is putting revolution out there into society in a very bold and dramatic way. It's introducing them to Avakian, his leadership and his vision, and it's giving people a way to get involved in this movement for revolution in all different levels. Let me just say.
What do people say when you're out there? What does the public? I mean, that was an example right there, right?
There you saw it on that video.
Are people throwing rocks at you, or they're welcoming you?
This is we're taking this out. Bob Avakian and the question of communism is a contested, controversial question. I'd be a fool to deny that. This is a contested, controversial question in society and the world. Can the world be any different? Can you actually make a revolution in today's world? What about communism? You know, it's under assault ideologically. It is hanging by a thread. You know, communism is. Avakian has re-envisioned and re-energized this project, and it is now more relevant than ever to the world today, and we need, as I said, to close this gap between what this represents, that is this understanding, this vision, this leadership, and the awareness that people have it. And this tour, let me just say,
1 minute.
in going into the neighborhoods, in showing the DVD of Bob Avakian speaking, in getting this book Basics out to people, right, and drawing other people into this in all kinds of ways, you know, donating funds, making lunches for the volunteers, putting the volunteers up.
Make community basis to it.
Look, this tour is on for the next 2 weeks.
Okay.
I just want to say...
30 seconds.
I just want to say, people need to write this down. They need to write this address down. And that is, they need to be able to go to the drop-off and organizing center in the Bronx. That's Monday through Saturday, 5 to 6 p.m. Mothers on the Move, 928 Intervale Avenue in the Bronx. That's next to Rainey Park. And people who want to donate food, people who want to help prepare displays, get materials out, they need to get there.
Thank you so much for joining us, Raymond Lotta.
Great.
Cool. We'll do it again sometime.
Right.